I think if I could do it all over again, I would have made the video of what I thought about that city council meeting and then just not posted it without watching everyone else's. Because everything that I saw that everybody so graciously responded with, um, it was really good stuff and very much opened my eyes to several things. Most notably, in the comments that I thought were interesting, the two things that stood out to me were there's a couple earlier entries. Quite a few people were interested in the context of the meeting, which is awesome. You know what really happened the week before, and what was the person at the podium really trying to do? I mean, was it actually inciting some sort of altercation? And the week before, had there been an actual altercation, like were the people up there talking about profanity and stuff? And our natural default positions, uh, it was interesting to see the differences there. Some some said that the city council woman was thinking that the speaker was in the president's First Amendment violation. Others believed that the the speaker had their First Amendments violated by being squelched before his time was up. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. And I thank you guys for taking the time and sharing your point of view on that. Off the bat, what I saw a man, and, based on his outfit and job title, I assumed he was a Christian man, a Christian leader. I wasn't aware, Irish. I wasn't aware that he was actually part of a secession line. I didn't mean any offense by that to anyone or anything like that. That wasn't really what I was thinking. I thought it was interesting that a man of or a person, it could be a woman too, depending on what's going on, but uh, a person of faith has interest in what's going on in the governance of their community. I was very much encouraged that people are still standing up and speaking, uh, and I weighed that quite a bit in my point of view. I was extremely encouraged when the other city council members, researching it, it looks like there were two of them that walked at that point, which meant that evening's business, for all intents and purposes, would have been over if they couldn't get a majority vote. I was extremely encouraged by the other city council people walking. To me, that meant that there are even people in office who do have an awareness of what is right. And I think I weighed that a little bit differently than those who saw, well, this is an example of how bad our society's gotten. You can see this as how bad our society still is. The police officers who got up and walked over to the podium, they did quietly say, like, come on, sir, uh, whatever, but they did not lay a hand on him. They didn't choke him. They didn't choke slam him. It's like, to me, they got up to placate, to show a little bit of force, but they didn't actually, drag him down as if he were doing the cha-cha in the Jefferson Memorial, you know. I would wish, my wish, my wish for a perfect world would be that the reason for a police officer or the person physically with the gun, the reason for them not to do unlawful actions would be for them to see how their freedom is the same as the freedom of the people on the other end of what they're trying to stop. Other thing, this is just a town meeting, right? I noticed in a lot of comments like this is the lowest level of government and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I know many of you are aware, but those of you who aren't should be aware. A city council and a county commission have the greatest impact on your life directly on a day-to-day basis. Uh, from millage of land tax, I think in some instances there's city taxes, how law enforcement is employed, how many law enforcement officers you have, curfews, all kinds of stuff, fire ordinances. There's some pretty amazing stuff, and when you hear about people getting busted for a bunch of trash in their yard, that isn't from Obama, you know. That's from crap like this. Uh, and when you go to these meetings, another thing you'll notice, there's not very many people at that meeting. It could be they didn't have much going on that night or whatever, but Pensacola isn't a small city. I mean, it's small by big city standards, but it's not a small city. It's a decent size. It's not like a rinky dink. I don't know off the top of my head, but there's enough to where the average person may be interested in what's going on there. Um, Somebody had asked, I think it was Tactical Medic. You had wondered if that's how the way things go down here in Florida. Let me give you an example of kind of what it's like in Florida. We have many residents who come down here after retirement, so they bring their ideas and stuff like that from areas of. We don't get that many people from Boston, oddly, but a lot from Michigan, and some from Boston, a few from Ohio, but New York City, New Jersey, and they bring their big city thoughts down with them. So what you'll have, for example, they don't necessarily care for the people that are natively living here. You know, the person who already has a house on the water because they want a house on the water, and we got our big ass trucks. And I've actually heard them say, in as many words, they wish that the big rednecks with their trucks wouldn't be allowed to vote. Because down here, what will usually happen whenever there's an ordinance that those people do not like, whether it's something like an eyesore, like they don't want a shop to be painted a certain color, or they don't like the sign, those temporary signs that you see on the side of the road where you can change the words on them. There was something in the other town, they wanted to get rid of that because somebody thought they were ugly. And he kind of had a point. They do look shitty. But on the days when they have something going on like that, the AARP makes one hell of a showing. Now, they had another thing. It was a leash law, and it had to do with canines in the back of the truck, and that they wanted to pass a city ordinance where you had to have your animal leashed in the back of the truck. And well, to make a long story short, I don't know if y'all hunt or not, but a lot of times you won't necessarily have the animal leashed. You'll have them in a dog box, which a lot of people who don't know anything about animals don't understand that. And if an animal is leashed in the back of the truck, there's a potential for that animal being strangled if they were to jump out of the back. The people voting for that, or the people talking to that, are they made a hell of a showing. and the people against it, the other people just didn't show up. Either weren't aware of it or didn't really care. Another thing that happened when I was little, and in Boy Scouts, we had this place that we met at, and it was an old train depot. Um, no longer a train depot because we don't really have trains come down here like that. Like there is a coal train that it's on the one side, and I think there's an Amtrak train rail in the middle. Anyway, that's not important. The old train depot where we used to meet as Boy Scouts, the Lions Club wanted to buy from the city. And they brought it to a city council meeting, but by the time they brought it to the city council meeting, it was already decided. The city needs money, the Lions Club have money, and my whole Boy Scout troop and my dad, who he's a pretty good speaker, he got up and it was just this wonderful presentation that my dad made of how these different organizations, these fraternal organizations, had purchased areas, and then eventually the Boy Scouts get booted out. They find a problem with them everywhere they went. Like our Boy Scout troop had been dejected from like 3 different places. I was 13 years old, and while my dad's speaking and taking his time on this thing that he worked at, I mean, he probably spent 4 hours writing it, and he said it a few times in the mirror. And I watched as I was recording it. I've got it on tape. I watched as the man in the front, whom actually this was the last year he was actually in that seat, just sort of nonchalantly looked up at the ceiling and did whatever while my dad spoke. Well, you remember me telling you about my dad. But the Lions Club ended up getting the depot. Eventually, they started having problems with us because what they would like to do is set up their area for their meeting. Because the way this depot worked, it was open, and they would have certain things arranged for their Lions Club thing. And if we did something different with the Scouts, like their arrangement for chairs and tables would be different than what we have going on. Even if we were to move them all back, they didn't like the idea of us moving them and not moving them back. Like they would have a problem in their minds of, well, they wouldn't do it right, or the kids are messing around. Stuff like leaving a light on, leaving a mess, even though we were very cautious about it. So we ended up, we got bumped. My, one of the points my dad made before, there was an area further in town before that previously, and the building was built for my Boy Scout troop. Like the person who built it for my Boy Scout troop, donated it to the city for my Boy Scout troop at the time. And when the city had its druthers, they took it over and kicked the Boy Scouts out. I mean, it was wild. And my dad's speech had all this stuff. It was at a time when everybody was complaining like there's nothing to do for the kids. They're just going to get into trouble, which they do. I got to tell you about the scavenger hunt. I'll do that next Halloween in honor of the scavenger hunt. But lo and behold, we get booted and they do their thing. But yeah, city councils, people, they have the greatest impact on what is really going to affect you. The other part that stood out to me, Cranky Prepper, I don't know. He hasn't posted the video yet. I don't want to spoil it for him. But when his video does go public, he's got some very good points about what our society is becoming in that regard. That stood out to me as well. Overall, I saw the process as encouraging the first time I watched it. Now, as you watch it more, you can pick up other details, as far as behavior and things like that. And Cranky's going to get into that. So I look forward to seeing his deal. Y'all take care. Sorry I couldn't sit still.